600 wins, 6 Georgia State championships, 16 regional championships, 2-time National Coach of the Year, first team from Georgia to win the City of Palms Classic, the nation's #1 high school tournament, first team in Georgia history to attend the Dick's Sporting Goods National Tournament of Championships. He's produced numerous NBA players and professional basketball players all over the world. It's real basketball talk. It's real help and real life with Coach Doug Lipscomb on the BG Podcast Network.
And welcome once again to Real Life Basketball. Darren Sutherland and the legendary Coach Doug Lipscomb, 600 wins. I don't know. I get it confused all the time. How many state titles, Doug?
6.
6. And McDonald's All-American coach, all that kind of stuff. What year was that? I forget.
06.
2006. 11 years ago, man. You're getting old.
And we've got 5 kids out of our program that played in the McDonald's All-American game.
We'll talk about that in just a minute. But we want to thank you once again for listening to Real Life Basketball, the podcast. Do me a favor. If you're listening for the first time, or if you're listening for the first time in a long time, or if your friends gave this podcast to you and you're listening, thank you so much. Doug, guess what we've had? I always say this on our show on Mondays, or on Tuesdays rather. Guess where our listeners came from this week? Well, guess what foreign countries we had out there listening?
Japan.
We got some from Japan, yes, sir. Where else?
That was my only choice.
Your only choice. You know where we need to get into? And I know he's a basketball fan. I'm waiting for a download from North Korea.
You better be careful.
Because you know why? Oh, Kim Jong-un, he likes Dennis Rodman. You remember that? So he's got to be a basketball fan.
Yeah, he took a team over there.
Dennis took a team over there. Now, if Dennis would have said, Coach, do you want to coach this team? Would you have coached that team to go over to North Korea?
If I'd had Dennis Rodman with me.
If you'd had Dennis Rodman with you? Yeah. I don't know that I'd do it, man. It'd have to take a lot of money.
I do believe that everybody that went on that trip made at least $1 million apiece.
Really?
That's a lot of money.
How you know that?
I can't tell you my inside sources.
Inside sources. Well, anyway, see, you won't hear that nowhere else but on Real Life Basketball. You know, in the past we've had great interviews, everybody from Jay Billis to, heck, who all we had, Coach, in the past?
Oh, Amir Abdur-Rahim.
The assistant coach from Texas A&M. Stan Jones from Florida State.
Sherman White,
the Georgia State assistant coach. And we've had a good time, but we have not done a show together without an interview in a long time. And this week, our shows come out on Tuesday and Fridays. Tuesday's just a general show where we interview somebody about basketball, an announcer, somebody, a player, somebody that has something to do with basketball. Then our Friday shows come out, and they're always dealing with a coach. Like this week's show is going to feature Mike Thompson, the head coach of the nationally high school ranked McEachern Indians, which is going to be a good interview. And Mike's a friend of yours, Coach, so he'll be able to give some folks some good insight on how to build a program and how he built his program over there.
Yes.
No doubt. But I want to touch on some things that are hotbed issues in high school basketball. And you're part of this fraternity, so I feel like you've got insight that a lot of other people don't have. Because as a fan, and I'm catching you totally off guard with this, Doug, so if you want to just kill the subject, you say kill it and we'll start the show all over. I don't think you will. But I want to talk about the McDonald's All-American team today a little bit. And I want to talk to the folks, and you know, the McDonald's All-American team has been around. It's probably the longest institution in high school baskall. It's been around a good long time. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yes, it's been around quite a long time.
I think it was around before AAU really got popular. Oh, yeah. No doubt. Let me ask you this. How did you go about getting chosen? And I've never asked you this before, and we've been doing this show together now for 3 months. And in our first show, which has been the most listened to show we ever done, you know, I basically interviewed you, but I never asked you this question. How did you get to be chosen the coach of the 2006 McDonald's All-American team?
Well, I think at that time we may have won 4 state championships. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it.
Yeah.
because I don't
They all run in together. When you win so many of these crap, this all runs in together.
I'm thankful for every one of them, of course, even the ones we didn't win.
Can't remember if I won 4 in a row, 4 in 5 years. But I'm messing with you.
Well, I know we lost 3 as well. That was my fault, of course. You already know that. Right. But one of the things, I think they have a committee that goes out and searches people that would be coaches that get along well with top caliber kids, and they run you through like a trial basis too, because there's another all-star game that takes place up in New Jersey, and they'll let you coach that game to see how you can handle it.
What all-star game's that? You recall the name of it?
I can't, but it's like Dipper Dan Classic or something like that.
So you've got to go to, it's almost like a qualification. You got to go to the Dipper Dan Classic or whatever.
Well, they would like for you to. You can, say I don't want to do it, but when you do go to that game, you'll take the people that's probably going to be your coaching staff with you. Now, I don't know if they still do that or not, but that's how we had to do it.
Who was on your coaching staff?
Benny Gibbs and Mark Carver.
Where's Benny from?
Benny was my assistant coach for several years, and then he went on to be the head coach at Pebblebrook and at Druid Hills, where he won a state championship. Mark Carver is currently the head coach at Sprayberry High School, and I think he was with me when we won at least 3 championships.
So they were with you at the Mcdonald's game?
Oh, yes.
I was wondering how that worked. Did they bring in other coaches from around the country and say, okay, Doug, you're the head coach. This head coach from Texas is going to be your assistant coach, and this head coach from Indiana is going to be your other assistant coach. I just didn't know how that worked.
Well, that's how they do it at the Michael Jordan game, because at one time I was going to be the head coach, and then the team out of Texas, they went undefeated, and therefore I was the assistant coach.
So you got fired without even knowing why you got fired.
Hey, I got fired for the game. It was still great, because the atmosphere being in the Jordan game and the top kids in the country, you can't beat it.
When we talk about the McDonald's All-American game, let's go back to 2006. Who's some of the players you had on that team that you were coaching and you were coaching against?
We were coaching against Durant.
Kevin Durant.
He should have been on our team, by the way, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, we got to get in.
Yeah, he was on the West team.
Why is he on the West team?
Well,
he played high school in Maryland. That ain't West.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? Maryland's in the Big Ten now, so I guess they said since Nebraska's in the Big Ten and Maryland's in the Big Ten, they could be in the West.
So they just went on and shifted him.
Yeah, they shifted.
But I had Ty Lawson, Michael Conley Jr., Greg Oden.
Yeah.
And it was a good atmosphere.
Let me say this. I didn't know you had Greg Oden. But Greg Oden is what got me attracted to watching college basketball at Ohio State. Greg didn't have the professional game that we all thought he was going to have because of injuries. But what kind of kid was Greg Oden?
He's a super kid. He's very, very outgoing, a jokester.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. His size at that time, he was humongous, and he really looked like
7 foot, have a grown man body.
Yeah, and he talked like a grown man at that time too.
Really? Now, tell me if I'm correct. You may or may not remember, and I know I'm catching you off guard with these questions. Him and Mike Conley was on the same team.
High school team.
Same high school team. So you had 2 kids off one high school team make the McDonald's All-American team.
They won the state championship and came from there to the game.
Really? Mike Conley, one of the highest paid players in the NBA, if not the highest paid player, point guard for the Memphis Grizzlies. His dad was a superstar track star,
yes.
if we recall.
Outstanding family. And the way that the game was set up, Mike Conley Jr. might have played less than anybody else, and he had a tremendous attitude. He didn't mind it. And he's the consummate team player. Coach in that situation. We're going to reveal some secrets, okay? If you can. If you can't, you can't, and we'll leave it at that. How do you decide who gets to play and when they get to play? Is it predetermined? Do you actually get to coach and sub how you want? I mean, there's got to be a method to the madness. It is a method to the madness, and I'm gonna let somebody else tell you how it really goes down. But there's a certain part of the game where you get to decide who you want to be on the court at that time, and you're in the whole atmosphere for the kids. The Ronald McDonald House is awesome. They do so much for the kids and the families. That's the main purpose of that event.
Yeah. Did you feel like a kid in a candy store being a coach of that team when you've got 7'1", 285-pound move like a gazelle, Greg Oden on the low block? Did you come in the room before the game and look at your assistant coaches and say, heck, all we got to do is hit him high and let him turn and drop, step, and go, and we're going to score?
At the same time, when you say that, they had the Lopez brothers on the other team.
Yeah.
And so there you're talking another two kids for sure, brothers that played on the same high school team. And they had another, Stephen Hawes, I think he was 7. So they had 3.
I remember Stephen Hawes. He went to Iowa, if I'm not mistaken.
They were loaded.
And then they have Kevin Durant, too.
Yes. And the way the system was set up, in the first half, we were up by 20. And then we had to make the rotations, and we ended up losing by 20.
So you lost the Mcdonald's All-American game, Coach.
Oh, yeah. It was fun, though.
It was fun. One of the highlights of your career?
Yes, I'd say it was. And it's so amazing. The majority of those kids in that game, they go on to be NBA pros.
Yeah.
Look at Durant.
How many players on the team? 12, 15? How many?
It's 12 on each team.
There's been a lot of buzz on the internet this week, in particular, about certain players not making the team. Okay, when you were back in 2006, when you were coaching the team, can you recall? And I know I'm asking you to reach back in your mind 11 years, and there's been a lot of water under the bridge 11 years. But can you recall perhaps a player that didn't make the team reaching out to you and saying, why didn't I make the team? Or have you seen through the years players that didn't make the team, people calling you saying, Doug, why didn't this kid make the team?
Well,
what goes on in selecting the team A, and what would you have to say to kids that don't make the team that we all know deserve it, but there's only a certain amount of spots?
Okay. First of all, I'm not the one that picks the team. There's a committee. There's a national committee that does that. But as far as people that didn't make the team, I think I've had several kids that should have been on the team, just like most coaches will think that their kids should be on the team. I was fortunate enough to be in a program, as I said before, that had 5 McDonald's All-Americans come out of it, at least 5 pros. So, like I say, I've been blessed in that area. But if you're a kid like a DeQuan Jones that didn't make that McDonald's game, then you go on to college and you give it your best, just like Jamario Davidson gave it his best, and you get your college degree, and you go on and you try for teams, and hopefully you'll make an NBA team. And I say that to kids all across the country as far as Shaq's son. It's time for him to step up and say, hey, I got to show people why I didn't make the team. I think Westbrook is doing a very good job of that right now.
Yeah. So Mr. Westbrook for Oklahoma City didn't make the team. What you're saying?
Yes.
Was there some? I don't know the situation, but was there some back in the day? Was there some discussion on why Westbrook didn't make the team? Do you recall?
I mean, he wasn't around at that time when I was involved with the game, but as you can see how he's playing right now, it really doesn't matter.
Right. Same with James Harden.
Yes.
I mean, just player after player after player after player. So the team doesn't define you going to the NBA.
Well, I don't think it hurts you at all to be a part of that fraternity.
Right.
And because there's no average person that's ever made that team. There's not a Doug Lipscomb gonna make that team or a Darren Sutherland.
Well, you know what? There's a Doug Lipscomb that's been the coach of that team. So you're not an average coach. Let's just throw that out there. I know you're not going to put the accolades on your own back, but Doug, you coached the team. There's only been a certain amount of folks that have coached the team.
Yes, and from my understanding, you're only going to get to coach it once in your lifetime.
Really? One time? Wow. So you get to coach it once. What's the difference between the McDonald's game and, let's say, the Michael Jordan game or another All-Star game?
Well, they're basically the same. You're going to have the top caliber kids, and that's just like the stage for them to perform, so people can see what the game of basketball holds for the future right there.
I know they're both very important games. They're both very, very important games. However, in the back of your mind, it's a great honor for a kid to play in either game, the McDonald's, the Michael Jordan, any All-Star game they go to. But truthfully, would you say the McDonald's game is the pinnacle for the All-Star game?
I would, and I'd say it's closely followed by the Jordan game.
Really? Why is that? Is it because the first in wins? McDonald's was the first in, and they've continued it on through the years? Or
Well, I think it's extremely important because like I say, you're the best of the best. Like for the Jordan game, I had Jelon Kendrick on my team, and I had Kyrie Irving in the game as well.
Doug, there's a perception that the McDonald's game is the big one. Michael Jordan game's a big one. Do the same kids make the Michael Jordan game that make the McDonald's game, or do they try to pick different kids altogether?
The majority of them are the same kids.
And these kids, let's face it, this ain't the first time. Maybe back in the day, in the 70s and early 80s, these kids had never met each other. But in today's world, these kids have already played against each other since they were 15 years old a lot of times.
Oh, yeah, I say that probably started around the late 80s, early 90s. Those kids were on that AAU circuit at that time.
Let's move on to something else that I know absolutely nothing about, that I know you know a little bit about. USA basketball. How do these kids get chosen for these like under 16 national teams, under 18 national teams, and things of that nature?
Well, it's the same criteria. You're looking for kids from all over the country. That committee is a very big committee, and I would think that Coach K has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, Coach K decides.
Well, I mean, he's the coach of the team. I'm sure he's
Okay.
in one of those. Let me say in one of those teams.
Now, let me tell you this. Kentucky fans that are listening, maybe y'all need to figure out a way to get John Calipari to coach these USA basketball teams, because apparently he can't recruit anymore. Have you know what? I've watched high school recruiting for a long, long time, okay? This year, the fact Coach K got three number ones, and let's segue off of this McDonald's thing and get into this. And the fact that Zion Williamson signed with Duke out of nowhere. And let me be the first to say this. If you follow us on Twitter, if you follow us with this show anytime in the past, Doug, we interviewed experts from 247 Sports, from Prep Hoops, all across this country. Our friend Stacey Davis, blah, 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 blah. We all had Zion going to Clemson or North Carolina or Kentucky.
Yes.
Or even ESPN had him going to South Carolina. Did anybody see Duke coming in your world?
Well, if you look back
Yeah.
on some of our interviews, I said that at the beginning. But everybody wanted to start talking about Clemson being so close to him and he couldn't leave the state of South Carolina. Well, he's leaving.
I mean, and let me say this to you guys that are high school basketball fans. If you've made a comment negative about Zion choosing Duke, and here's a 17, 18-year-old kid, Doug, you know what I got to say to them folks? Shame on you. Shame on you that you're mad that he picked Duke over North Carolina. You know, I've heard this. Here, let me tell you some of the rumors I've heard, okay? Kentucky, for instance, there's a Kentucky Sports Network out there, and I heard the podcast from these guys that said Duke was able to offer him things that a public school hadn't because of open record laws. That if Kentucky would have offered him what Duke offered him, that because of open record laws, they'd get in trouble. That potentially his family had been given beach property in the state of North Carolina to go to Duke. And that's why he was in the Brotherhood. That's the kind of junk that you hear, Doug. You've heard junk like this all your life, have you not?
Almost definitely.
I mean, I heard one comparison. This was the biggest, decision in high school basketball since Harrison Barnes decided he was going to North Carolina. Everybody had him going to Duke or somewhere else. And it was a scam. You've had players like this, okay? And I'm not going to ask you the inside scoop, but I'm going to ask you this right here. Jalen, one of the most recruited players in the nation, Jalen Brown, when he played for you in high school, okay? He didn't go to the SEC. He didn't go to the ACC. No doubt some of these same people was making some comments over Jalen. How's that affect the kid? I mean, I know they can say it doesn't, but you know what? We're all human, Doug. How does that – what's the kid saying? Because it's got to hurt in a way.
No, I don't think it hurts at all because it's not about what they say. It's about what you do.
Yeah.
So, you have to realize that people are always going to talk.
Yeah.
So that's water under the bridge.
You've heard the stories, though, and you've seen them on the internet that they had to take bags of money to Zion to get him to go there. Have you not?
Let me explain something about that.
Yeah.
It's always going to be somebody on the outside making accusations. I mean, like I say, that's life.
Yeah.
But let me give you something that's a fact. At Duke, they've had Kyrie Irving, Tatum.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum, Bagley.
Marcus Bagley.
Now you got Zion, Barrett.
Yeah.
All those people are lottery picks.
Right.
So why wouldn't you go where there's a lottery pick? And this coach that you're playing for has a major influence in the game of basketball for the Olympic team. You name it. He's known. He's the man. So fortunately for Duke fans, the man got more people.
Right. So Coach K, I heard somebody the other day, how's a 70-year-old man have influence on a 17-year-old kid? It just doesn't work that way in today's world.
Well, I would say it does because you can look at that 70-year-old man's record.
Yeah.
That's something you can't erase.
How does it affect these kids like Jalen Brown, these kids like Zion Williamson? Are they awestruck when they meet these coaches like Coach K, Coach Roy, John Calipari, when they meet them for the first time? Rick Pitino. I don't, maybe awestruck's the wrong word, but they got to be somewhat impressed. These are coaches they've seen on TV their whole entire life.
Yes, they're impressed, but at the same time, that coach is not just talking to them just to chop it up,
right,
and ask them what you had for breakfast. That's not what it's about. It's business.
Now, you've often said the assistant coaches are the ones that build the relationship. They build the day-to-day. They're the ones that lay the foundation. Without naming names, have you ever seen an assistant coach make a great foundation with a player, then the head coach come in there and just crap all over it for whatever reason? The kid says, you know what, I love the assistant coach, but I just can't stand Coach so-and-so and don't want to go there.
Well, no, what I've seen is the parents say we want to meet the top man to the assistant coach, and they want to get to know that person that's responsible for their son at the end of the day.
Right.
And if that head guy doesn't make that impression or they feel that that's the way it's going to be, then he's messed up the game.
Wow. So, and that's happened before.
Most definitely. And it's going to happen again.
It's going to happen. So anyway, so you're looking at kids now, though, today, that their parents were teenagers when Coach K first started recruiting. Now their kids are being recruited by this same guy. So, we're not just talking a 10-year guy. We're talking a lifetime guy. We're talking potentially the greatest college coach of all time, and everybody can say what they want about John Wooden. But, I mean, there's things. Coach K, for even if you like Duke, if you don't like Duke, he's going to go down as, if not the greatest, top three of all time.
Well, I'll put him in the top three,
Who's your top three?
We ain't going to go in that right now. Let's just say this right here. Okay. Coach K's made major adjustments. I mean, because I remember a time where you can say what you want to, but the as you want to call it, a stigma is that he wouldn't recruit kids from one-parent homes. He's not the only one that had that reputation. I can't say it's true, but that was stated out there from people that were close to that college or that university. And secondly, he was always opposed to one-and-done kids.
Yeah.
Well, everybody that I just named before are one-and-done kids. So he made that adjustment. Is that to make the adjustment to win championships or to let people know I'm not still in the Stone Ages.
Right. And other coaches have got to, some of them's got to go that route.
Most definitely. Now they won't have a job.
You think Calipari's got a lot of pressure on him right now?
I think Calipari's got a lot of money, so
yeah,
it doesn't really matter. You know, you can fire me if you want to.
Fire you if he wants to. Well, anyway, you know, it's always interesting on this recruiting trail, and we followed Zion since the recruiting began, since we started the show. He ends up at Duke, shocks everybody. Jerry with 247 Sports had him going to Clemson. Jerry's counterparts had him going to North Carolina. We heard he was going to Kentucky. We heard he was going here. Nobody really heard Duke. Here's something else I'm going to ask you about. I didn't even think about this. 2 Canadian kids make the McDonald's All-American team this year. How long till we get a European kid on that team?
Well, we got to get him here, and then most likely place he'll end up will probably be Mount Verb.
Now, no, I'm talking about a kid that actually plays high school basketball in Europe, making that.
Oh, no.
You don't think it'll ever happen?
Oh, now, you want to see somebody go crazy, that'll be that it would lose all its flavor.
Why?
Because McDonald's, was it made in USA or
it's made in USA,
Europe?
But it's to work. They got Canadian players there.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, Ben Simmons.
Yeah,
and but they came here and played. So now you're gonna start a frenzy where we got to get all those kids over here now. So
if there's a 7'6" kid that moves like a gazelle from Monterrey, Mexico, he can dunk backwards with 3 hands. He don't make the McDonald's All-American game.
He might need to come across the border, and if he can, and get to a high school here.
So the 7'6" kid. So he don't get to play. Just American kids get to play in the McDonald's All-American game.
Right, but the way you get around that is a thing called an I-20. So he moves into a prep school, and he's on the team.
He's on the team because he played for an American high school. There you go. There you go. I'm going to come home and we can talk about one of your McDonald's All-Americans from this year. And I say yours because you coached him last year and you're friends with the family, E.J. Montgomery.
He's a super kid.
Super kid.
Yeah, very, very good family. I love seeing him every time we go out somewhere. It's a pleasure to have had him in my program the year that I was there, the last year. Sherman
White, Georgia State, said, that's who I want on my team next year. You got an inside track on where he's looking?
Well, no. I guess I'd like to say, well, he was going to Auburn, changed his mind, and I don't know if they're back in the picture or not.
Since the signing of Zion and EJ made the McDonald's team, his stock, if you look at the draft boards of top unside players, he's moved up the ranks. And just so you know, I know you don't follow this stuff. I have to follow it because we do the show. But what we're hearing, and I wonder if you just hear it, and I'm just throwing it out there for our listeners because they love hearing this recruitment stuff. We're hearing Kentucky or Duke. Have you heard that?
Well, I have not. But if I were somebody attending Duke, I think I'd look at that lineup that's coming in and what they already have there that stayed, so.
And they need a post player next year.
Well, I'm sure they got the pick of whoever they want.
How's EJ going to do at the next level?
I think he's going to be fine. He's definitely getting stronger. He can play the 3. He can handle the basketball. He rebounds. Very good passer. And he has that motor, where he can get up and down the floor. And he's got a very good attitude.
Is he a one and done?
I don't want to put that pressure on anybody.
Does he have the NBA prototype skills?
Yes, he does. He does. I think he's going to have to improve on his range, but that will come with repetition and increasing in his strength.
Practice and time and all that. Mark Fox got a chance to get him over at Georgia?
I don't know. I'm not going to rule anybody out.
Man, talking about NCAA, let's move along to that, and we'll finish out the show again. Darren Sutherland, Doug Lipscomb on real life basketball. What you got, Coach?
Since we're on a McDonald's All-American,
yeah, keep it on.
Kick. Now I want you to think about something. McEachern has Okura, and they have Cooper,
Yeah.
And then you look on down the road just a little bit, they got a kid at Northcross. Boston is his last name.
Yeah.
And McEachin just got a kid to move in who's a very talented player. I think his last name is Smith.
Yeah.
So there's some kids around here that has a very good chance of making that McDonald's team, along with the kid at Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Holy Innocent?
Holy Spirit. That's one they just dropped on us.
Maybe me and you need to start a school. What would we call it, Coach? Holy Smoke. There we go. We call it the Holy Smoke.
Hey, always Little House on the Prairie now.
That's right.
Bonanza or something.
Something like that. So, have you ever seen a kid? And I'm sure you have. We're not going to name names. I'm just talking out loud here. And sometimes when I talk out loud, I ask great questions. Other times when I talk out loud, I ask stupid questions. But have you ever seen a kid be in the Jordan game, be in the McDonald's game, and then get to the next level and just go backwards?
Well, I mean, they'll say that about a lot of kids. They're riding this kid that was the number 1 draft pick for Philadelphia.
Yep.
They're giving him the blues, and I mean, you need to look at the fact he's a rookie.
Yeah.
They don't care.
I mean, and then you look at kids like Joel Embiid up in Philadelphia, played for Mount Bird. People saw the skills that he played, had. They saw the physical raw ability he had. Went to Kansas. Was at Kansas, 1 year, 2 years? Left there early, and then he's developed in the NBA in 3 years. Now he's one of the top players in the league. And he really developed in the pro game opposed to developing in the college game. The kids develop at different stages, you feel?
Yes, they do. With maturity and the IQ increases. On the pro level, there's not a lot of, quote, zone going on. So you and your man is in a space one-on-one, and the offenses are not complex. They're just spaced.
Right.
Yeah, so it's good.
Does a coach a la Jim Boeheim that runs a primary zone, everybody talks about the Boeheim zone for Syracuse, does that hurt his recruiting, you feel, with some kids?
No, it may think some. I mean, it helps simply because some of those kids think I can stay in the game longer and stay out of foul trouble.
Really?
Yeah.
You think it hid Carmelo's defensive liabilities coming out of school?
No, because on the next level, Carmelo's always going to have a 7-footer or a 7'2" or somebody behind him once he gets beat off the dribble.
But if you think about it, Syracuse in college has had a lot of so-called superstar awesome players, but then they get to the pros and they disappear. Remember Pearl Washington?
Well, yeah, he
Walter Berry. You want me to keep talking?
But the important thing you just said, when they get to the pros, you get paid.
That's right.
So, I mean, that'll be the 9-to-5 job any day of the week.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Well, Coach, thanks for giving us the insight on the McDonald's game. I'm sure there's some kids out there that deserve to be there and that are not there. Hopefully you and I are going to go down there and be able to get some interviews and talk to some folks at the McDonald's All-American game. This year it's going to be at Phillips Arena.
Yes, sir.
Is there since you're in the club, so to speak, is there any little special things that they do for former coaches or former players? They bring y'all back, y'all have a dinner, y'all do anything?
No, there's a banquet, and it's a very good banquet. They usually have a guest speaker that's a well-known person, top quality people. All the McDonald's owners are there, and sports people are there, and it's a good event.
So they're going to let me speak this year since it's a top quality speaker?
Let's work on that.
We'll work on that. What would I say? I'd say, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. Anyway, well, congratulations to all the kids that made it. To the kids that didn't make it, keep working. Keep striving. What would you have to say to those kids? Because, Coach, I'm sure there's been a player or two that you had to sit down in an office one day and say, hey, you didn't make the team, but don't worry about it. What'd you say to them to keep their spirits up?
Well, I mean, that's like something you would have on your vision board as a goal you wish to accomplish.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that one, you missed out on that one, but you should have several more up there. So we can't hit them all, but we're gonna keep moving.
We're gonna hit one or two of them. We're going to hit one or two of them. Hey, it's been a different type show today on Real Life Basketball. We'll be back this Friday with a great interview from one of the top coaches in the country, Mike Thompson. Super Bowl's getting ready to come up this Sunday, Coach. NCAA. I did mention we need to talk a little bit about the NCAA, things going on there. What are you seeing? Who you liking? Who from the outside looking in right now? Who you liking and who you not liking?
On my team?
Yeah, who's your top four right now?
It's going to be tough. Purdue surprised me the way they're playing.
Jay Billis told us Purdue was going to be good.
They're big.
Yeah.
I like them.
You know who I like? I like Virginia. Virginia's Tony Bennett's got them guys playing some great defense, and I think Virginia's looking good. Now, just because we're making these comments, and this is Friday, and the show comes out Tuesday, Virginia's going to get slaughtered this weekend because I talk good about them. That's the way it always works.
Who else is on that? Michigan State.
You love Michigan State. Tom Izzo always does a good job. The SEC is so competitive this year. It is so competitive this year. One night you've got Alabama without Colin Sexton whooping Auburn. The next night you got Auburn whooping Georgia. And the next night you got Georgia with Colin Sexton whooping Alabama. Then you've got Tennessee losing to South Carolina, but Kentucky losing to both South Carolina and Tennessee. You follow me? And then Florida may win by 40 one night and may lose by 10 the next. So the SEC, and then our poor old friends out of Texas A&M, which both of us had picked pretty high, right. They're having their struggles this year.
Right, and I think they're about to meet up with Kansas sometime real soon.
Yeah. Those mid-season interlocking games are coming up right now, and going to be some good stuff. Then in the ACC, if we move over to there, Duke lost that opening game to Boston College in the ACC, but played pretty well since then.
Most unpredictable team is, of course, Georgia Tech. You don't know what you're going to get out of them.
One night Georgia Tech does good. Next night, they beat a Miami team. Yeah. And Miami was a good team, and they beat a good Miami team. North Carolina has surprised me. They get killed by Virginia, beat by Winthrop, then they win some other big games.
Yes, unpredictable.
And then the former All-American up at Wake Forest, Danny Manning, he's having his troubles, man. He's having his troubles.
That's a tough place to play.
I'm not going to mention the school, and I'm not going to mention the player. But when I seen a player who had transferred from a junior college, or not even a junior college, a college that's close to us, start for his team, I thought to myself, are we in the ACC or are we in the Gulf South Conference?
Well, he's in a situation where he has to get players, and I don't see a lot of people jumping on that Wake Forest bandwagon.
He should have stayed out there in the Midwest where he had a big program built. But anyway, it's always easy to coach to somebody's back and tell them what they do with their back turned to you, ain't it, Coach?
Yes, sir.
That's it. Hey, want to remind you a couple of things before we get out of here. Improve yourself 1% every day, spiritually, mentally, physically, in your job and in your family. And you can still fail 65 times in a year and improve 300% over the next year. Tell your friends to listen to us. Please take the show, retweet it. Friend request us on Facebook at reallifebasketball.com. Got some great guests coming up this Friday. Got Mike Thompson coming in, one of the top high school coaches in America. Coach, what you got to close it out?
Let's spend more time being in life. Let's spend more time being constructive as opposed to destructive.
That's right. And all you folks have been destructive talking about Zion Williamson, shame on you. Your grandmama wouldn't be proud. Ain't that right, Coach?
Most definitely.
Hey, thanks for listening. BGA Group, the podcast, Real Life Basketball. Thanks you. Bye-bye.